Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Strong, Happy, Healthy, Loved podcast. My name is John, and today my very special guest is Jody King, an amazing mother and partner. And she's going to talk about her journey of self-discovery around working through daily challenges. And we'll get to all of that. So, welcome, Jody.
Thank you, John.
So, as we like start at the start, can you please take us back to your childhood and just share some of the concepts or ideals? Did you know about mental health? Was it an easy childhood? Were there struggles? And please share.
Okay. So no, I had a pretty difficult childhood. Um, a lot of disruption. I changed schools a lot. My parents broke up when I was young. My mother remarried. My mother had a lot of issues, which caused the family life to be pretty unstable. Um, So from a young age, I felt like I was really mature and grown up. I'm the oldest of three. And so I just took on I guess I was a parentified child. I looked after the younger kids when my mother wasn't capable, things like that. And it was just a drive that was in me. I just did it. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. Um, My mother died when I was 12, um, in a tragic accident, yeah, I guess that's enough to say. So that was pretty traumatic, but it was kind of swept under the carpet and you just, picked up your life, got moved in with your grandparents and went to school, a new school, another new school. So I think that's had a big impact on me, although I didn't realize that until I was in my late 20s. And I had a bit of a breakdown and I went to therapy, and that changed my life. I think that is a big reason why I've been able to cope today with all of the challenges I have with the kids. And it definitely informs the way I parent. Yeah. So.
Thank you for
So
sharing.
that's so
And
that's the brief childhood version, the story.
and it's interesting when we do, I guess, struggle, and you've mentioned that you were the oldest, so sometimes the responsibility lies with you, and a parent passing at that age, then
Mm.
obviously you were just left to step in and kind of function, and
Yeah,
your emotions and your feelings were of no consideration really, because
no,
lots of other.
no. And so that kind of got buried, and you just sort of went through your teenage years and pretended it didn't happen, it wasn't there. But it started to affect my relationships. It affected all my relationships, I guess. And then a breakdown of a relationship in my late 20s led me to therapy. And so then I realized that all the trauma was still there. And so I had to work on all that. Yeah.
So
So,
during that time, was there any reprieve? Did you find any outlets through the physical or music or anything like that?
no, I didn't really have, it took a lot out of me. I worked and I went to therapy and, you know, just sort of, yeah. I've always exercised on and off. I exercised a lot when I was a teenager. I found some sort of outlet in that, I think. I wasn't very sporty. I didn't like team sports, but I did a lot of, swimming and gym and aerobics and that kind of thing. Then in my 20s, I jogged and, did that kind of thing to keep fit and healthy. And so I've done that on and off my whole life. In my teens, I had my first experience with horses, and I think that had a huge impact on me as well. Because my mother died at 12. When I was 13, I lived with my grandparents, and my uncle and cousin had a horse or two. And I went every weekend
Yep.
to ride the horses, and we went to Pony Club. And when I rode those horses, there was no tragic past, there was no issues, there was no problems. They just melted away, you know. So then I've always loved a horse ever since. Whenever I get a chance to be near a horse, it's just pure joy. So yeah, I think that informed, all the stuff with Ollie.
Yes, well, we were getting to that
Taking Ollie to
one
ride a
moment.
horse was because Mum likes horses, but never did I think it would end up the way it's ended up. And he'd go on that journey. It was just, yeah. But that's where it came from. Deep down, I always had that drive to be be near a horse. Yeah.
To have that power to connect us with ourselves and teach us so much. So that opens up that you've got two sons,
Yeah.
both of whom have been diagnosed with autism.
Yes.
So again, raising children now, you're put in a position of being the leader again, as you've kind of already been sort of thrust. So childhood through adulthood, nothing's really changed, except I can only imagine. Please, can you sort of the difference that you've seen raising a child that has autism? For me, I'm not, probably for other
Mm.
viewers too, don't really kind of know. There's different levels
Mm.
of diagnosis, and both boys, through childhood. How did you know, and what were the, I guess,
So
how did you support that?
yeah, they were both diagnosed. First, Ollie was diagnosed when he was 8. He was in grade 3, and then I never thought he was always a difficult personality. He was always he had some struggles in the early years of school. He had a lot of struggles with social stuff when he was really young, 3 or 4. When he was around 3 or 4, I said to Justin, he's got different needs. He's different. And I took him to various health professionals, and it was, oh, he's got auditory processing problems. Oh, okay, that's why he's like this. So we did stuff for that. Then the next thing was, oh, he's got ADHD. And then finally, you go down that path and you research that and you try and work out how to help that. And then the next thing was when he was 8, autism, because he was having a lot of trouble at school, a lot of behavior problems, couldn't cope at school, extreme anxiety. So we got him diagnosed. Yeah, he was diagnosed at 8. And the little one, a much quieter, gentle personality, my second son, never thought he would, you know, uh, be diagnosed with autism, but around grade 2, 3, started to really struggle at school and ended up being diagnosed as well. Yeah, so.
I mean, there are some benefits or some sensitivities that are considered to be useful, but then I guess if the child's having a tough time and you've got two children struggling, that's going to be a little hectic, I guess, dealing in a household,
Yeah.
trying to get anything done or
Oh yeah, it changes it changes everything about your life. Absolutely everything. It changes your marriage, changes how you function, how everyone functions in the house has to be adjusted, because I was all about, well, we have to try and help him. We have to do everything we can possibly do to help him. So I always just had this incredible drive to do the best for him. And I think my childhood, I was neglected in a lot of ways. And so I could never have that for my children. That was never, happening for them, and they were going to have. And I think that early therapy that I had made me understand how the parents affect the children. And so I was just so determined that I wanted that for them. I wanted them to have everything they needed and be supported. And
And
so
amazing
that's
that,
what
that
we did.
Ollie's obviously taken into horses now. And
Yep.
amazingly, in 2023, he was selected for the Australian team to go to the Special Olympics and received a gold, a silver, and a bronze. So, in terms of the support that he is now, he's now coaching and helping other people. How do you see that transition from eight now? Was he 16 now? 17?
17,
17.
will be 18 at the end of the year. Um, I think I see it differently to others.
Hmm.
From the outside, it looks like, oh, this is amazing, and look what's happened. And that's nice, but it's been a really hard road. There's been a lot of change in him between the ages of 12 and now have been incredibly difficult. Um, Changing from primary school to high school set off huge stress and anxiety in him, and that filters through to the home. So what you see on the outside is not really, I've got a story every day nearly, and some weeks and days are really, really hard to pick yourself up and keep going. But on the outside, it's like, oh, well, look, this looks amazing. Look what he's achieved. But I pushed on because I knew that it was good for him. So all those times he didn't want to go to practice. He didn't, he was throwing a tantrum in the car on the way to the paddock. He was throwing things at me, and there was wild behavior on the way there or on the way home. I just pushed on because I knew that once he got on that horse, 90% of the time he felt better and he felt like a different person. And he just seemed to have a natural aptitude for it. And he needed more than anything to be good at something because everything else was just shit, you know? Friendships were shit, really hard. School was really hard. Home life was hard. But being on a horse, that wasn't hard.
It took someone to pick him up and drop him off and set him up and
Yeah, I've
get him
always said
nice.
I'm glad it was horse riding and not soccer because I got to live out my dream as well.
Yeah.
I got to sit and watch him ride, and that never gets dull.
And unfortunately, with any type of extreme sport and being around 400 plus kilo animals,
Mm.
there are some challenges. So again, talk about resilience. So you've had a number of falls with the horse.
Yes.
If you
So
please, yeah.
when Ollie started riding with Irina, I realized that it had sparked those memories in me of it being a kid on a horse. And I sort of looked for little avenues where I could be more involved in horses. And so, I'd got in with a friend that had horses. And so I started to be around her horses and help her and ride those horses. So, unfortunately, I did have two pretty bad accidents. Um, yeah.
And again, you've gotten back on the horse metaphorically and physically. I mean, again, that there is I guess fear, I mean, anxiety to deal with something that it's not like you're getting on a motorcycle or you're on a living, breathing
Yeah,
being
it's
that
really
decides.
it's the unknown. Why did I get back on? I guess is that's what you're asking.
Well, again, you know what I mean, with all that you've gone through in your life, I mean, there is this predication. If you hadn't have done that, potentially, Oliver or, or if mum can't do it. So again, have you set a tone for yourself that you're leading the way um, for your own experience or not?
Yeah, for my own experience and I guess the kids needed to know that you don't give up. Um, you ask for help. So a big thing I wanted to teach my kids, and I think I have, is that you ask for help when you're having any kind of problems, mental health problems, especially. It's not a bad thing to accept help. We've had this journey with the kids, especially Ollie, who's more complex, where we've needed a lot of help from health professionals. Um, and I've modeled that behavior for him all along, said, we ask for help when we need help. So um, I guess the back to the getting back on a horse is I just couldn't leave it like that, because it was so special to me.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave it with, well, that's a fall, and I'm now it's too risky and I'm too scared.
And that's courage. And that's the thing where you're doing it anyway, and there's fear involved. And yet if we don't risk, then we'll never get those returns.
Yeah. Well, and I felt like, oh, I know nothing. I thought I could ride a horse. And I feel like that about parenting as well.
Well, when you've got all those skills,
Always feel like you're out of your depth.
okay. I mean, a horse, unfortunately, someone else can scare it. There can be
Yeah.
at their own shadow, and you've got to try and maintain something that's 5 times, 6 times heavier than you, and you've got to try and control it, even though it's scared. So it does teach us a lot about leadership and how to maintain that resilience. So, and as you've shared before, I mean, it's not like it ends there. Where you get this beautiful experience, you get off, and now you're going back to the challenges that you realize, the little reprieves or the little
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful things that can
Um,
happen in a day, and yet back to the grind, so to speak.
yeah. So it's just for me, it's a little piece of joy that I can grasp onto. And that does keep you going. Can use that to keep you going. Because if you don't have a little piece of joy, you can't keep going when things are really tough with your family and you everyone's got mental health issues and so it's sort of like what's important to me and where's my joy, you know? I think that's what that's about.
And I think you've got to be obviously tenacious. I mean, you've gone through, getting funding, obviously having children with specific needs. That's not easy, especially trying to get the right funding. And it seems a lot, but then when you realize all of those protocols and machinations that have to come into play, um, obviously that's another factor to deal with as well, correct?
Yeah, and that's really difficult and scary because you think, oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to navigate that. That's not something anyone around me knows how to do. So again, that's asking for help, you know, being able to be honest about your experience and say, I'm really struggling with this, I can't do it. Who can help me? So that's what I've done with that as well.
We talk about that positive self-talk, and sometimes that's really challenging, and yet there's just a negative kind of undercurrent that's there, and then somehow for you personally, do you find what stops you from falling back into certain behaviors or patterns and keeps you on track?
Oh, I think it's just that drive that I want to look after my kids in the best way that I can, whatever the cost is to me, and the sacrifice to me. I just think once I made that decision to have a child,
Hmm.
I didn't have children till I was late, till I was older, because I just thought I never thought I was ready. I never thought I was the right person. I didn't think I wanted to be a parent. And so I knew when I did it, I'd be really serious about it and I'd have to do the best job I could possibly do.
And I feel like as a mum, and I hear you say it's all for the kids, and I've seen a lot of mums. My mum was like that, raising two children. It was all for the kids, and there's a lot of your own personal satisfactions or life interests get put to the side.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. I gave up a career, um, those sort of things. Giving up a career means that you have to grapple with this concept that you're just a mum. I had to work really hard to not feel bad about myself because I don't have a career anymore. Um, not let anyone sort of make me feel bad about that. And but they don't know what I'm dealing with, so they don't most, I've got close friends and they know, but I'm not really interested in what anyone else thinks because I know what I'm doing. I know who I am. So yeah.
Yeah, now one of the reasons why I wanted to get you to share, because I do see this incredible resilience and the courage, and potentially you might downplay that and go, look, it's just for the kids, but I do see you um, incredibly steadfast in the things that you do, and you have an eye for detail, and you do everything with, like you said, with that passion and drive, potentially sometimes to your own um, detriment, and yet you're still doing it. So, that's certainly a statement of for now, this is how you show up.
Yep.
Um, and I mean, if someone, if you had advice or you see other people in a similar situation, and I know you've said ask for help,
Yep.
and sometimes that's easier said than done.
Yep.
What have you seen some people can do more effectively, or what stops people from stepping into that world that make their life more um,
I think
simpler?
I think be honest and open about where you're at. You don't have to pretend that, like with the kids, I've never pretended they're anything that they're not. I've never tried to compete with others around me. I live in, a lovely, affluent suburb. I don't compete with anyone around me and what their kids do. I've got friends that have neurotypical kids that have all sorts of other successes in their life, and I make sure I try and stay really grounded and not um, try to compete with that. Yeah, because that's not who we are, and that's not what we're about in this family. Um, so I think that's really important. And the other thing for my own sanity and my own resilience is I think the big key to it is having really strong boundaries. So I learned about that when I had therapy, and I'll continue to practice it more and more because you do have to. I I think it's really important not to spread yourself too thin because what I do day to day takes a lot out of me, and then I can't have other people or things coming and piling on top of that. So I'm pretty strong about what I will and won't do and what I will and won't interact with. Um, and I think that's a big key.
Good advice.
I don't think I'd cope as well if I didn't have those strong boundaries.
And that's certainly a practice too, isn't it? I mean, again, it's not meant to be easy. That life has its difficulties, and if you're not going to learn or focus on the dedication, then it gets harder, or it's going to be hard either way. So
Yeah.
people learn to pick their own challenges.
Yeah, and I've tried to learn everything I can possibly learn about autism and the kids and how they tick and what makes them the way they are. Um, and I just think I've got a handle on it and then they change.
I was going to say, just when you get used to that at a certain age and it changes, and it's not like when they become adults, it's still
Yeah.
prevalent in some way, and you'll still be on hand to provide some
Yeah. And
support.
I'm really driven to make sure that, I set them up for the future. So, what I do worry a lot about their future, especially Oliver. He's on the cusp of leaving school, so that's a big concern and takes a lot of my mental energy at the moment.
It's
Yeah.
good that he's got your love of horses, and that he has a way to continue to enjoy that or find a career in that in some way. I know he's
Yeah.
interested in potentially doing something still with equine as he transitions from school.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. Because he has a pretty, he has ADHD, and he jumps from one thing to the other. So there's a lot of things he could do, but he changes his mind a lot. So
I think a lot of us are in that boat this day and age. So yeah, it's wonderful. There's so many fields of interest to play in. I know you've had graphic design and hairdressing as past careers, and I know you
yeah,
still do a little bit of um, hairdressing on the side. So it's wonderful. You've still got ways to be creative.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what else you want to know about me.
I think that's amazing. I mean, just to highlight the fact that life can be challenging and you've got a smile on your face and yet nobody knows sometimes what goes on the inside. I think it's wonderful. I appreciate the sharing and for some people out there that have their own struggles to, like I said, have some boundaries to continue to ask for help. Wonderful advice. So I really appreciate your commitment today and sharing with the channel. Thanks,
You're
Jody.
welcome.
This has been a podcast from the Strong, Happy, Healthy, Loved, and we thank you for joining us. If you like what you're seeing and more content, put a like down below, send us a link about what you'd like to see in the future. But for now, thank you for your time. Much
Thanks,
love.
John.
Thanks, Jody. Bye.
Bye.